Hello, and welcome to another fantastic episode of New Co-Builders at NoPody Studios. My name is Barry O'Reilly. I'm a co-founder and chief incubation officer at NoPody Studios. And today we've got the team that are working on one of the businesses that we're most excited about in the studio. How we met both of these fellas is also an interesting story in itself. You know, you often wonder when you start podcasts, like what's going to go and happen in the world. Would anybody even listen to them? Well, not only in this instance did the fellas listen to it, they got so inspired, they sent us a note and said, we love what we're doing in the studio. Roll forward a couple of weeks, months, and then they're inside NoPody Studios as one of our startups. And it's been an amazing journey ever since that moment. So I'd love to welcome William and Nick, the co-founders, CEO and CPO of Adjacent Possible. William, Nick, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you, Barry.
Great to be back in the airwaves. Great to be here.
It's always good to get us all together, you know, and have sort of fun catch-ups and share stories. So, you know, for folks that are maybe not familiar with you both, your own background, origin stories, as well as we'll talk a little bit about Adjacent Possible and really some of the amazing reactions this product has been getting from everybody that we show it to. So maybe, Nick, do you want to kick off a little bit and just share a little bit of your own origin story? Like, you know, I think when I met you, you called yourself like a serial inventor, and instantly I was just like, I love this. Like, tell us what inspired you to sort of define yourself in that manner, and then I'll hear from William after.
Absolutely, thank you, Barry. So yeah, that's how I feel. That's how I think every day. You know, I'm a former IBMer, just as William. We have met both at IBM, and at IBM, I actually got the title of IBM Senior Inventor because you know I got it happened. I got very prolific with inventing stuff in tech. So a lot of patent applications, a lot of technologies that were like just born out of problems that we had for customers that we started to like, sort of amplifying and like move these problems forward in the future, anticipating future problems and start solving them prior they were coming to light. And so this brought like start inventing technologies and start protecting things and, you know, actually patents and inventions. It's what brought William and I together because that's how we've met. That's how we we got to know each other. Actually we met at a conference, but like the first conversation was around that. And you know, over the past decade, I spent a lot of time, thousands of hours on patents, just reading them, writing them, studying them, and yeah, that's what brought us together. So I feel as an inventor because I really am. I can systematically and serially create stuff with tech.
Yeah. No, I love it, you know, and even just to hear you share a little bit of your inspiration, you know, William, your background and origin is just as fascinating, right? Someone who probably was working in quantum computing from like some of the earliest days, these emerging technologies. You know, it's one space that I think is always early is quantum computing and how that's moving along. And as you said, you both found the passion for this idea of understanding new ideas and how patentable they are, the concentrations of patents. So share a little bit about your own sort of story and that sort of drew your fascination into this space.
Right. So I've been always very fascinated about the intersection between business and technology. That I've been doing that for like more than 10 years when I was at IBM. And actually was just recalling the moment we met with Nick. We actually saw someone dropping a coffee near the coffee machine. And we started to talk about this. The first conversation was around the patents, how to prevent that to happen. You know, Nick started to say, okay, maybe you can have an incentive, you know, if your coffee drops after, you know, within like a minute from the coffee machine, then you can get a new coffee for free. Like this was the conversation. So you can see like all the level of technology we had in our head, but also, you know, the commercialization. It was like a really genuine connection and the curiosity for technology, for impact to the world. And we just explored that. It was a great test bed at IBM because we could kind of master this skill of doing patents. So we actually have some patents together. One was released like a few days ago. We just saw the notification from IBM, like we have both names on the application. It's great, great story to tell, but also it was great for us to understand how these things work. And then we brought all that knowledge. My background is also in AI and, as you said, quantum and, aerospace as a verticalization of the industry. And we always thought like, okay, what can we do as people who are genuinely interested in changing the world? And back in 2021, following the 90 Days Film program, which, by the way, is an amazing program that Finland has created for people, entrepreneurs around the world, and even top executives from corporates. They actually bring together a very limited number of people. And the first year, they had 5,300 applications, and they were only taking 13 people. And I just sent the application like one night in December, and then somehow after 3 interviews, I got in, and I left IBM, and then we went to build this company as a studio in Finland. And we had also another co-founder who came up with this idea of connecting patents, but we explored it together. And then later on with Nick, as we had the skills and the platform. So it's been like a long journey, like more than 3 years now. And it's fascinating to connecting the dots back and see how we started, and then literally as a napkin on a bar in Czech Republic, myself and Nick, we sat and drew the architecture and did the business model, and then it's great to see how far we've got and how many changes have been on the journey.
Yeah, no, and again, it's been fantastic to watch you. I've only got to see a glimpse of the journey in many respects from when we first met, when you reached out after listening to a podcast, I believe myself and Mark talking about the studio and the resonance it had with you both as entrepreneurs and what you were trying to create. And so for folks who are probably not even familiar with the Adjacent Possible, they obviously can get a sense that you're both technologists, you're both curious about patent and intellectual properties. Tell people a little bit about what is this product and as it is today, like what all of these sort of pieces, the puzzle that you have sort of pieced together to create something. Honestly, it's one of these products every time I'm on a call with you and we show it to, whether it's investors trying to understand opportunities for new businesses they want to build, or folks that are just trying to understand, if you will, like how protectable their ideas are. They're uploading their pitch decks onto your platform, and in an instant they're getting this feedback that makes them just go, wow. And I think only yesterday we were with a customer who was potentially way down the path on an investment decision, and they uploaded the deck that you had, and they were suddenly like, oh my God, we didn't even know half of this information, and now suddenly we've just turned lights on that we didn't even knew existed. So tell people a little bit about the product. Obviously the inspiration for it, but actually what the value and the problem that it's solving.
Absolutely. I can take this. So I'll start with a bit of an intro because it's like I really want people to get it. So a patent, it's a legal document in its essence, but if you look at that like with the eyes of a data scientist, what you see when you read a patent, it's like a problem statement and solution. Like it's a set of steps to solve a technical problem. It's like a set of like steps in a recipe for a chef to replicate a meal. So we are using this thing that is part of the documents. Let's say this is a bias of the worldwide patent data set. We have access to over 180 million documents from over 170 countries. And we do have like probably the most and best up-to-date database worldwide of technical problems and technical solutions. How do we use that? If we take like a pitch deck depicting a technical solution, we are able, given a pitch deck, to understand like what are the technical features out of that. And then we're able to classify out of these technical features, which are the patentable ones. And out of this, we're able to say for each feature, which ones are on a trajectory to infringe on existing patents and which ones are not. So the ones who are not are actually the features that you should like build your product around, because that's where you've got the freedom to operate. The rest, it can be just for you an information to know that, hey, that is a risk for me. And the green light, instead, it's like the opportunity. And we're not called adjacent possible for fun. Like what we look at once we know what are the opportunities is that we also look at like what else is possible. This is the adjacent possibilities of that. So we're able, given a pitch deck, to run a preliminary freedom to operate analysis at a fraction of the cost in minutes with just a pitch deck. And we're able on day one, when you just have an idea on a pitch deck, like what is going to be the likelihood of success for that idea from a tech perspective, just reusing this tons of information, curated information, up-to-date information from the patent database. That's what we're able to do. You're talking on mute, Barry.
Mute that.
Always have to have one muting moment when I'm doing live streams. So it's amazing literally what this product is doing. And William, share with people like even some examples that you've run, right? I know when you were first testing out the application, you were sort of taking pitch decks of different businesses. Like give people a sense of what the platform and some examples of what you've ran through there, as well as the examples we've been talking about with even folks that we've been presenting the product to as potential investors, but also users of the product as well. So share a little bit about some of these examples that you've been using.
Sure. We actually took the freedom to take some of the successful and unsuccessful businesses, and it was kind of a fun game to play. Like, let's see how they would have performed. So we felt we had a time machine with patent data, right? We went back on when that pitch deck was published, and we ran the freedom to operate analysis on that exact day. And it was fun to see, for example, companies like Uber scored really high on the like the infringement level, like in terms of that they were very low risk in terms of infringement, while the score for companies like Jobon were much less. So they had lower score, so higher risk of infringement. And we understood why also. Like back then, they were very successful in what they did. And talking about Jobon, they were working on like a hardware company working on Bluetooth speakers and home appliances, and they raised more than $900 million. So that's like not even a unicorn; it's like beyond the valuation of a unicorn. And they decided at a certain point to join to enter the market of wearables, which, by the way, was already populated, and that's what we saw back then with our time machine. It was highly populated with companies like Fitbit and Garmin. So what happened to Jobon, there is also other dynamics like, team execution, market, business model. But what was like, in our opinion, like on the IP side, was that it was so highly populated that the licenses that they would have to pay to other players will make their business model not sustainable anymore. So did they know that earlier, have they known that earlier, like they would have just stick with their market where they were, the leaders, but they maybe didn't run enough of these IP due diligence and understood like what were the consequences. And there are so many other cases. We talked to other investors who invested like 10 million on a Series A, similar case, like they had to pay so many licenses to their competitors or other companies. And or even having big corporates calling a startup saying, okay, you come to court now, it's only 10 million, to just say good morning in court, and if you don't pay us for that, like you can just close the startup and bankrupt. So there's so many places, and that's why we wanted to add an additional data point early stage enough for investors to understand what was given in front of them. Okay, we love the team, maybe great background from top universities. The business model sounds great. The market has a potential. It's maybe a VC market. The tech is good, but they don't check the IP maybe early stage. And that's what we want to introduce and disrupt in the VC industry now.
Yeah, and honestly, as someone who's been sitting in on those conversations, right, the target customer for this product obviously being venture capital firms or people who are responsible for making venture type investments. At the same time as you're showing them this product that can, cut their the equivalent of replacing their legal costs that are like tens of thousands of dollars, but also all the time that they get back where they can prioritize maybe 100,000 decks that are sort of sitting in their inbox, and which one should they look at first? Literally just uploading all these decks straight into the platform, and suddenly, they've got this initial signal of where they should spend time. And it's funny to see these people's reactions, because they go from, oh, this is a tool that I could use in my work to help me more efficient to making investments, to then suddenly going, hang on a sec, are you two looking for investment? Can I buy into this product? So it's been fascinating to see that sort of response, if you will, from both the target customers and ultimately businesses that are going to use this product, and, as you say, like, fund your business to keep going in the way that it's going. Yeah. So maybe give us a little bit of a glimpse, right, of the prototype is sort of out there now, right? People can go to evalify.com and they can see and test this tool out and get some real feedback on their decks, which is, basically super exciting. What are some of the things, maybe, Nick, that you've learned so far since you've launched this MVP and people using it? And then maybe after, William, you could talk a little bit about where we're going in terms of the next sort of 6 to 12 months with the product and some of the aspirations there. So, Nick, what have you learned so far since this MVP's been out in the wild?
So what we have learned so far is that, like, people had no idea that it was possible, because usually, investors never get to talk about IP, generally speaking, until we get to due diligence. So until you are like a year, 18 months, and you're considering making an investment into something, until then, you don't ever look at IP. You don't ever look, like, you look at the markets or the competitors in the markets, but it's a different type of search than finding the competitors that you have from a patent perspective. This is particularly a thing in the technical landscape. So that's the first thing we have learned, that we have probably to educate a bit more also investors on what IP can do for them, and, like, looking at worldwide patent data set with different eyes, because it's not just IP. It's like a gold mine of insights from a business perspective. From a patent, you can understand a lot of use cases for a certain technology, and you can even find the famous adjacent possibilities, because these documents are actually describing how people imagine the future and how they possibly would apply things that they have invented. So when you put all this data with the aspiration of a strong team building a product, with the aspiration of an investors, of an investment firm that wants to enter in a vertical, enter in a market, get deep in certain investments, bet on the future, because that's all we do at the moment, solving problems for a better future. When you put all this together, the additional input that comes from the word of patent, it's like augmenting the conviction or giving you an additional point to doubt about what you've learned so far about that business. So by no means this is going to be like the crystal ball that says it all. No, this is going to augment the knack that the investors have for investments. This is going to provide them that additional kick into the decision-making process. We're not saying we're substituting due diligence as well. No, we are moving this check as early as possible to make sure that we build products around the right stuff and not around the risks, not around the red flags. And one more thing we have learned, I would say, is that it was difficult to convey this message, and that's why we came up with our own score for doing this. We invented a score for the freedom to operate in this landscape, and the score is actually pretty self-explanatory, because the score also embeds into the system, into the number itself, also 3 indexes: one related to the innovation, one related to the legal risk, and one related to the competitors around that. So not only you have a number that tells you, like, what's the freedom to operate for that, you also have automatically data points, insights on How inventive is that? What are the legal risks and what are the competitors?
Yeah,
So
no, it's amazing to see the output. Like I've seen it's almost like this credit score idea where you're like instantly you sort of
yes,
have feedback to go, oh wow, this looks great, and here's some reasons why, and whoa, this looks like a problem, and
exactly.
areas to action. So William, like going forward now, right? Like as I said. It's a joy to watch you both share this product with people, because it really is one of those moments where you see people like light up when they look at the product and go, oh wow, I didn't even get that insight. Like I say, as recently as yesterday, we were speaking to a venture group who just were well down the line of doing a deal, put the pitch deck in almost just for fun to see what the answer would be, and then suddenly almost were hanging up the phone saying, sorry, we got to go deal with something now because we've just learned all this new information, right? Fascinating to sort of see that insight happen. And where are you going with this product now, William? Obviously, you're out there, the MVP's out there, you're starting to talk to potential investors to get on board. So talk a little bit about the vision for where it's going, and then for anyone who's listening and wants to potentially get involved, learn more, maybe even invest. Maybe you can talk a little bit about what offer you have for folks.
Yeah, sure. And basically being in the venture studio environment, and also talk to clients that are in the venture business, basically we are closer to their problems. So we see them daily, what are their challenges. We're learning a lot as well, because our assumptions on what this industry looked like 6 months ago is totally different now, especially because we have way more information, even going to conferences like worldwide. We just got back from Slush in Finland, and we were at the Web Summit, and these very fruitful calls that we have with investors. There is, like, of course, different things. You were saying before, the fundraising part, which would happen in Q1. We are highly interested into making a very valuable product for investors. And if we are able to crack the FTO analysis at the very early stage, which we are doing at the end, it's the biggest value, it's the biggest satisfaction we have. Looking ahead, if we look at the product as it is now, we're focusing on the risk. So we're telling you what's the risk of your investment, but then there is like an upside of that, or to that is the opportunities. And that's basically where our family of fast filters will come in, but more especially, the more particularly are the adjacent possibilities that Nick mentioned at the very beginning. That is, like, given a problem, given an opportunity, given a risk, like what is the opportunity to that? Like, are you able to pivot and go in a different direction, or find an adjacent business or industry that you could develop? And this is particularly interesting and vital, actually, for early stage startups, early stage venture capital investors, because they even don't want to patent things, because they would feel stuck with the technology, and they would have to make the investment on longer term licensing deals. So it's highly beneficial to them to understand early enough what are the implications of that technology at a certain point in time. And that's why we believe it's very helpful to have even the adjacent possibilities part, because you get simply the full picture. Okay, what is the problem and where you could go, or what are the workarounds to that problem? That is not just legalese language, by the way, which happens a lot.
Well, and like I said, we had a comment already from Jason Edge, who's also one of the co-founders of ThoughtForma, which is a rapid ideation testing and launching tool, and how you've been able to actually help them refine their value proposition and focus in the studio by essentially using your tools to help them improve their tools. And that's really what the studio is about, right? Where we have this sort of collaboration happening between the companies, where even in some instances, one company is the first customer of another company, or at least giving them feedback to help them iterate their products. All right. So in closing, then, you've mentioned, William, Q1. You're out in the market. You're looking at potentially anyone who might be interested, both to try the product. They should go to evalify.adjacentpossible.ai. Go to that link so you can actually experience the product. But you'll also be fundraising and offering opportunities for folks to invest in that. So can you talk a little bit about how you plan to do that process, and when people and how they could get in touch with you if they're interested?
Right. So yeah, it's a fascinating thing because the very few startups who have the investor as a clients and as investors. So they got so excited. There is a bit of FOMO around, which is great. For us to hear from them. They not only want to be okay. Some of them said, if I want to be a client, I also want to be an investor. Otherwise, I'm out, which is great. So our plan is we're going to release the safe notes for investors, so they can reach out to me either through the page adjacentpossible.ai. There is a team page with my email, or there is LinkedIn. And yeah, we're going to fundraise next year in Q1. We just want to make sure we have more traction than we have now, and that everything is in place for the investment. Okay, there is never the right moment to do that, but we think this is the right decision to do in the right time, so we can also scale up our team and get new markets, and also make more features. I think we have so many lists of features that we want to implement.
Yeah, actually, just a glimpse of that. It's like we want to get far more nuance with the score, so that you get a lot of more information just looking at the score and the indicators around the score. We have plans to expand on the data sets, because at the moment it's patents alone. But if we add a bunch of more data and we start crossing things, we can do so many things that will just make sure you get a full evaluation, not only from the IP perspective, but also the competitive perspective. And there is a lot more also in the way we one of the things we learned that I didn't mention before, it's also that apparently many people are actually working with a lot of early stages startup. It's not only VC investors, it's also corporate VCs, it's also angel investors, it's also founders, because we can decide to have some offers also to some offerings to founders. And we also know that we can become an API and integrate into other products, into other platforms. There are so many things we can do. And we're narrowly focused now on preliminary freedom to operate analysis. Because once we get this right, and we are very, very right at the moment, let me tell you, it's like once we know what are the risks, we know the other side, we can focus on the other side, the opportunities. And from the opportunities perspective, there are so many adjacent possibilities here that we just need a lot of people, a lot of brain power to make all these dreams come to life.
I would say we are less wrong than we were 6 months ago. Not that
yes,
we're right.
but that's good. Spoken like
I'm
true
very confident.
entrepreneur.
I look at the data. I know what I see. I see what I know.
Yeah, no, it's more data-driven approach for sure. And yeah, so we are happy to work. And even the willingness to have early stage testers. For example, we offer the MVP online, which by the way took 5 different miracles to happen.
Yes.
In terms of data and methodology that we developed in the last 3 years, and it's been a lot of work on this perspective. Even language, if you look for a special term in English, then you want to make sure that the same is reflected in Chinese patents, let's say, but it's transferred into English language, and all the plumber work that you need for managing 180 million patents, APIs, and so on. So we made that simple, and it's now available, as you see there in the link. We are just testing it, so it might give you some error. So we get a lot of sometimes the messages from investors, but just keep trying, because it might be that we're testing it, so we don't have yet a way to communicate when we are testing or we are deploying new features there. So just be patient and reach out to us or to me or
Yes.
to Nick if you encounter any issue with that. We love your feedback. It helped us to grow so much already. So it's vital for us.
Yeah, well, looking, it absolutely joy to watch the work that you're doing. Again, you can see so many people here on the comments, wishing you the best of luck, loving what you're doing, a dream scenario, whether you're an investor or an inventor, building these types of things. It's a super exciting product. It's been amazing to watch you two both grow as entrepreneurs through this whole process. So I would encourage you folks, go check out, as I say, adjacentpossible.ai. There's a link to Evalify there. You can connect with the team directly as well. Give the prototype a try. I guarantee you'll have that moment of sort of surprise and delight that very few products actually ever give you. So thank you again, William and Nick, for joining us. We look forward to having you back on. the show in the near future. Take care of yourselves, and thanks everybody for joining us.
Thanks
everyone.
so much.
Thank you, Barry.